angelic visions. And the women are the people who understand. They step up to the challenge. And the men are the ones that run away.
And Joseph's like a non-entity.
Oh,
Zechariah's just shut up.
Right.
During the whole thing. He didn't believe it, so...
Right. So Zechariah is Elizabeth's husband. But as soon as John the Baptist is born, then he sings a song for joy.
Yeah.
And he understands. And same with Joseph. Like, he disbelieves at first, but then he comes around. And so you have, again, like that unexpected people are the ones who are highlighted and the heroes of these stories.
And you get the shepherds in Luke.
Yes.
The shepherds are like criminals. They're the poorest of the poor.
Well, yeah.
And often are criminals. They're sort of homeless people that they're allowed to keep
wanderers.
the sheep.
Yeah.
So for the angel to come to the shepherds, as opposed to having rich magicians like you have in Matthew, it's again this going to the poor and the low.
Yeah, and I also like that if you contrast this with the prophetic tradition, where there aren't female prophets, you know, in the prophetic literature. You don't have visions coming to women. And here you have the angels and the visions coming to women.
Yeah.
Like, it's such...
And everything's upside down in Luke.
Yeah. Or
in this story.
Yeah, everything is branching out. It's going beyond borders. Yeah. So it's really cool. Our second story is going to be the parable of the Good Samaritan. This, I think, is such a great story.
Yes.
Let's just retell it real quickly. So a guy is walking along the street. He gets attacked and beat up by thieves. Or dinosaurs. So he's lying there in a ditch, bloody, gashes, broken bones.
Not that bad.
I'm not dead yet. And he's not dead yet. But some people walk by. You see a Pharisee walk by, and he crosses to the other side of the street. He doesn't want to help. Okay. Then you see a high priest walk by.
High-flying priest. Pterodactyl.
And he crosses to the other side of the street and does not help. Okay, the man is crying out, "Help me."
Rosebud. Wait, wrong film. Wrong story.
But then finally, the Good Samaritan comes by and gathers him up, takes him to a hotel, and pays the innkeeper to take care of him until he is well. He overpays him, so he can lodge there and be nursed back to health. And that's the story of the Good Samaritan.
And why is this shocking? I mean, what's the big deal about the Good Samaritan?
Yeah, well,
he's good.
Samaritan, because you have a Jewish person is the one who is hurt, and their arch nemesis would be
dun dun dun
Samaritans. We talked about this in an earlier video, that the people from Samaria are like half Jewish. They are unclean in Jewish eyes.
You can go back to the prophetic videos. Go back to the destruction of the northern kingdom, 732. Assyria comes in, crushes the northern kingdom, and then it's sort of half breed, half caste. It's sort of half Assyrian, half Jewish.
Yeah.
The Samaritans are not.
It's mixed. It's an ally, and
the Jews do not like that.
No, and their worship is mixed. They worship in a different place. It's like how you hate your cousins.
Yes, more
than you may hate your strangers.
Yeah.
Like in the church, I think it doesn't matter what denomination you are, you don't like another one. You know, like the liberals hate the conservatives hate the liberals, the people in between hate both the extremes. You know, that we dislike our family members more than people of other faiths.
Like if we had a person from another, completely other faith tradition come into Wallet, people would fall over themselves.
Oh my God!
To be welcoming and kind and nice. But I guarantee you, and we've had this, if someone comes in and raises their hands when they sing, we go, get a load of that. You know?
Like, nothing makes me madder than Christians that I don't agree with. That I feel are distorting the worship. You know?
They're doing it wrong!
They're doing it wrong. They're twisting my Jesus in a way I don't like.
Yeah.
Much more than, let's say, a Buddhist who just believes something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, they don't make me angry. But other
So,
people do. So the Samaritans are the people who the Jews think are twisting and changing and misrepresenting. And so they are long-standing arch-nemesis of each other. And they would not touch each other. They would not help each other.
Yeah.
They are dead to them, to each other. And so for a Samaritan to help this broken down, beat Jew is just amazing.
When a priest wouldn't do it.
A priest.
A
Pharisee.
Yeah, it's like when a pastor would just cross someone by the road.
Then like a social aid worker.
Yeah, so like the people you would expect to help don't help.
A doctor.
And then the person you're most afraid of in the world, that you think is probably the least likely to help, steps up.
Yeah, and that's why it's a shocking story, and why it picks up on that theme of unexpected and a widening of the kingdom of God.
Yes.
For people beyond Jews.
Yeah. But maybe people on the outside, maybe
they're
they
part
get
of
it just
too.
as much as anyone else.
Yes.
Do you have like a story?
I do have a story.
Yeah.
So in seminary, in speech class, we had to tell the story of the Good Samaritan from a perspective of one of the characters. And a lot of people, because we were all pastors in training, we all picked to be the Pharisees or the high priests, to be like self-referential and like self-aware that, oh, the church sometimes doesn't take care of people. Like, it was one of those weird things where it's a embodiment of a critique on oneself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you would pick that person. And I picked to be the Good Samaritan, because apparently I'm a jerk. And my professor said that in the 10
You're
years...
You're just arrogant.
I know.
It's different.
I'm so good. That my professor said that in the 10 years that he had been doing this, no one had ever picked to be the Good Samaritan. And I was not a very good Samaritan. I said that like I was rushing home to watch American Idol, but this guy got in my way.
Samaritan Idol.
I don't know. Middle Eastern Idol. Every time, everyone
Simon's
always...
still a jerk.
Everyone always sang Papa Nagila. Only song.
Email Nicole Ryby to complain at n.
You almost always give away like my email. And so I think this is a really interesting story to think about when Christ is telling this, who does he think people are? Like in the story, like who do you think you are in that story? I think a lot of times people cast themselves as that broken down person that then gets rescued, which, makes theological sense. Cast themselves as the people who walk by. That makes sense. I oftentimes think that we're the thieves that beat the guy up. That we are people who inflict pain. Who is the church in this scenario? Is the church, those high priests, the Pharisees, is the church the institution that doesn't care? Is the church the innkeeper who then takes care of people who are broken? That makes those all make sense. Usually people say, okay, yeah, Christ is the Good Samaritan. There's not a lot of arguments about that one, I think.
Or sometimes actually the man beaten.
Or sometimes the man beaten.
Yeah, which is an interesting.
Which is an interesting.
But it sounds like what I'm hearing from you is to think about yourself from the different perspectives of the characters. And maybe sometimes you're more than one. Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier, that I think a lot of times we are actually multiple characters in this story. That we are the beaten and the beaters. That we do both things, and that it makes it so much more complicated to be like, wow, we're complex people. So that is fun. Nice.